Welcome to Conversations. I'm Suresh Kochatter. The Iran-US-Israel war now seems to be reaching the tipping point. Basically, everyone seems to have got tired of the war. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the uranium issue, the missile and the drone issue, and of course the 3H, Hezbollah, Houthis and the Hamas. All are being thrown into a cauldron and it's being stirred briskly by the negotiators. But where do things go from here? We have seen this, we are almost there and we'll be signing it soon according to many people. But then sometimes it seems to be happening, sometimes it seems to be going. President Trump tweets one thing in the morning, one thing in the afternoon and one thing in the evening. Totally diametrically opposite. What he says, possibly he doesn't even remember. But then that's what President Trump is all about. Totally unpredictable. When the war started, or rather when the bombing happened on the 28th of February 2026, which is technically about almost 3 months now, there was hope and there was expectation that this would get soon, be done and dusted. But then it did not happen. March, April and May, now we are into the 90 days almost. The war doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So at least the war has stopped. There is a ceasefire now, at least in this part of it, not in Lebanon, where the Israelis continue to pummel the Hezbollah. But what is happening in Iran and of course in the neighboring countries? Why is it that so many times President Trump has come very close to bombing and then stopped and then started again, then stopped and then started again? Of course, he didn't bomb anybody in the last 2 months. Possibly his army has realized there's no point in doing it. They've destroyed everything that Iran has. And there's nothing much to destroy except the confidence of the IRGC and their minions in Iran. At the heart of it, the crux of it, as we see in the latest discussion and also the press conference by the Iran Foreign Affairs Ministry spokesperson, they seem to be talking something but not sure of what they're talking. Because for President Trump, anything less than what President Obama got in the JCPOA agreement would be a disaster, a political disaster. And that is already showing up with Lindsey Graham and others pushing President Trump into saying there cannot be a surrender to Iran. So President Trump is depending on Asim Munir, who God only knows has no zero negotiating skills, and of course the Qataris, the Saudis and the UAE all pitching in. But let's remember one thing, each of these countries in that area have a selfish motive. They all want to stay away from the crosshairs of Iranian bombing if it happens again. They suffered enough. The damages will take a huge time to rectify. But ladies and gentlemen, war is not an easy business, and we know that from ages. Every war leaves behind a trail of destruction, loss of lives and at shattered economies. It happened in the First World War and it happened in the Second World War and many wars in between. Now, to stop this particular conflict in Iran, there needs to be 2 or 3 things that needs to happen, which both sides agree. The crux of it is uranium, and US and even Israel is very insistent that Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb ever. The crucial word is ever. Not 10 years, not 20 years. Question is, they can never have it. That is something that Iran is not willing to let go. Looking at the Ukrainian example, where Ukraine gave away its nuclear arms after the dissolution of USSR, and what they were left with was a war from Russia. They couldn't simply defend themselves. North Korea, on the other hand, sits on a pretty neat stockpile of nuclear weapons, and Kim Jong-un, like an excited kid, keeps firing a couple of them now and then. He reminds the rest of the world that he's got a nuclear weapon, so nobody comes near him. The weak ones are the ones who don't have nuclear weapons, and they get pummeled. Now let's come back to Iran. So first thing is nuclear material, the 400 kgs of what is said to be 60% purified uranium. Iran says it's not willing to let it go, at least not out of the country. It's willing to keep it within the country under IAEA supervision and of course regular inspection. But US and Israel is very insistent, no, that should be taken out of Iran. Whatever form it is left, we don't know, because in the bombing in July, what we learned was that the entire uranium stock was demolished, destroyed. But now we are told, no, it still exists. So whatever form or shape, it has to be taken out. That's what Iran believes it should not. But the US and Israel want it to happen that way. The second thing, of course, is the fact that Iran has ambitions across the globe. The Hezbollahs, the Houthis, and of course we know the Hamas. Israel wants total demolition of support for these 3 groups. No support from Iran at all. But then that's not easy. Iran today has proxies not just these 3 but also in Iraq, as we saw recently. They want to extend the sphere of influence. Without Iran, of course, Hamas will not exist, nor will the Houthis Houthis, nor will the Hezbollah. It remains to be seen how that destruction of these three terror groups happen. Of course, before that was a most important point which I skipped, which is the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz was opened before this war started on the 28th of February. Now, if President Trump claims credit for opening it, it is laughable, because something that was opened before the war was closed down by Iran due to the war, and now US says it will open up because the war is going to stop. It's quite kind of mind-boggling. The Strait of Hormuz is very crucial, as we all seen it. The oil prices went through the roof and it's still staying there. And even if the Strait of Hormuz opens up tomorrow, it will take 5 to 6 months according to experts for the oil prices to show some kind of decrease. Till then, it is staying that way. But Iran insists it has a right to over Strait of Hormuz. It can even do a joint deal with Oman. But US is very insistent, and of course all the neighbors around Iran are very insistent that the Strait of Hormuz stay open as an international waterway. We will have to see whether that really happens. Of course, there are small pinpricks apart from that, which basically involves Iran demand that they should get back the frozen funds which are lying in different places across the world. The JCPOA agreement did manage to get them some kind of funding back, but they now want in billions. Obama had given them something like 400 million. Now Iran must be asking a couple of billion or even more than that. Whether President Trump will agree to it, depending on the nuclear issue, remains to be seen. Whatever said and done, at the end of the day, apart from all this, there are a number of other issues which Iran and US need to talk. And somewhere along the way, the Israelis also need to get involved. So have the neighbors around countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Iraq, Oman. All these countries need to get involved. But then what will happen? We'll have to see that, because some of them have selfish interests. Others have a bigger picture in mind. For all of them, oil is the most important thing. And that has not been flowing for the last 2 months across the Strait of Hormuz, at least. Now, the time has come for a broader thing, a rethink. How should we govern that area in the Middle East? It is going to change forever. Just let the ceasefire happen or the war stop forever, and you will see a new set of countries in that area adopting a new set of policies. Countries are going to be the same, but they're going to have a new outlook. They have learned something, that Iran has now become all the more powerful among them. They were able to stand up to the US. At least that's what they say. And for sure, neighbors, be it Saudi Arabia, which is the big brother, is going to be extremely scared, which is why they put Pakistani soldiers there and Pakistani aircraft there. Then, of course, the countries, smaller countries like Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, they will also have to face a flak. UAE with all the Emirates, the tourism as a mainstay business, and of course oil in Abu Dhabi and Fujairah and other places, will also have to do a rethink. Should we store the oil in Gulf, or should we have stored them in different parts of the world? Like now UAE has signed up with India to store its oil in a storage facility near Odisha. 30 million barrels. Why not 120 million? Why not 150 million? Store it there so that in the event of a future war, the strategic petroleum reserve will come in hand. Then there is the economic stuff to be dealt with. A lot of loss has happened. Oil has not flown in the last 2 to 3 months, and all that will need to be kind of worked out again. The Gulf or the Arab countries will have to even reset their development plans, reduce their construction and other plans that are going to happen. Of course, some of them may have to reconstruct again, because we've seen a lot of destruction of properties. And Iran is going to have a huge building affair with the money they're likely to get from the frozen funds. And that all, ladies and gentlemen, is going to lead to a new construction boom in Middle East. But this time, it's going to be selective. It's going to be a pick and choose, because the United States just wants to get out of the region as soon as possible. Israel wants to stay back and finish the job of finishing the Iranian regime. For them, that's an unfinished task. And Netanyahu knows that, with an election that is just around the corner and the opposition baying for his blood, saying that he has not completed his agenda. President Trump, on the other hand, somehow wants to get out of it, reduce the gas rates at the bunks, which is now running at around $6 per gallon, and ensure that it comes back to the old levels before the war, so that he can have some semblance of a chance in the midterm polls. All in all, it's politics, it's war, and of course, as we say, stupid, it's money. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.